Nikki Haley gets blown out in her home state to Donald Trump in the primary and acts like she's winning. Let's check it out.
Nikki Haley not backing down.
I'm a woman of my word.
No, you're not, because you said you wouldn't run against Donald Trump if he decided to run.
I'm not giving up this fight.
Donald Trump's sole rival sticking in the race, defiant. And barreling into Michigan, even after an historic loss in her home state of South Carolina last night.
And I'm grateful that today is not the end of our story.
Trump, meanwhile, full steam ahead.
An even bigger win than we anticipated, and
ignoring the primary and already wishing for the general election.
In certain countries, you're allowed to call your election date. If I had the right to do it, I'd do it tomorrow.
He's preparing the party for that, too, seeking to install family members and allies to run the Republican National Committee. The next stretch of voting states looming large, Michigan followed by Super Tuesday a week later. Most of those winner-take-all states, making it tough for Haley to earn delegates unless she actually wins the state. Haley's campaign manager last night.
I think the thing that we get hung up on, and I think probably rightly so, is the delegate math.
There are a lot of those states that are winner take all. There's also a lot of proportional states. We know the odds, but we also know the stakes.
Haley hitting nearly a dozen states in the next 10 days and seeing reason to keep going.
I know 40% is not 50%. But I also know 40% is not some tiny group.
Even the unlikeliest of
Now there was 60% who voted against you.
voices like Democrat Gavin Newsom urging Haley on.
So I hope she stays in personally.
And independent voters, even those who ultimately opted for Trump.
I think she should keep going. I think she.
See, now we have Gavin Newsom hoping Nikki Haley stays in the race. That is a sign right there that you don't want her as president. Let's break down the numbers real quick. Donald Trump won a record amount of votes in the South Carolina primary for either party. 451,000 votes, winning nearly 60% of the vote in Nikki Haley's home state. And somehow it is trying to be spun as a loss for Trump, or how this is somehow bad for Donald Trump. Nikki Haley, okay, she was in her home state and got 40%. 60% of the people in her home state voted against her, and somehow this is good for Nikki Haley. I don't understand this. Why do people think this? It's the other side, the never Trumpers and the left, that think this is somehow a victory for Nikki Haley. He got 47 out of 50 delegates, bringing his total up to 110 to her 20, needing 1,215. Now, I mean, this is huge for Trump. 451,000 people who came out to support Trump as the nominee. This is record breaking. I don't understand how she somehow thinks she won this thing. She's acting like it's a victory. Let's break down the numbers. Key exit poll numbers that explain Trump's commanding South Carolina victory. Trump's dominance among the GOP base. Self-described Republicans made up a sizable majority of the South Carolina primary electorate on Saturday, 68%, and Trump once again carried these voters by an overwhelming margin, winning 70% to 30% for Haley. Trump also garnered a majority support across traditional Republican blocs. 84% consider themselves very conservative, 71% of white evangelicals, and 65% of military veterans, as well as 86% of the Republican primary voters who say they are part of the MAGA movement. These are big numbers for Trump, so Trump dominated among the GOP base, winning key categories that are going to get you the nomination. Haley's smaller coalition. Since Haley did have some success among more moderate voters and non-Republicans, there you go. Non-Republicans voted for her. The former South Carolina governor overwhelmingly won voters who identify as moderate or liberal, winning 74% to Trump's 25%, but they only made up 1/5 of the primary vote. Haley also carried independents, who accounted for just 22% of the electorate, though she won them by 25 points. Haley managed to win 82% of voters who believed Joe Biden won the 2020 election. But they only made up 1/3 of the electorate. This is crazy. I mean, you have people who are moderates and liberals voting in South Carolina's primary, which helped her get 40% of the vote. Imagine if they had not, if it had been strictly people who identify as just moderate or very conservative and not liberals, then Trump would have won by an even bigger margin. How many people are complete leftists and hate Trump came out to vote for Nikki Haley and she still lost by 20%? This is not some kind of victory for Nikki Haley or some kind of trouble sign for Donald Trump. Let's keep going here. Let's see. Voters' top issues favor Trump. A majority of South Carolina GOP primaries participants said immigration and the economy were the two issues that were most determinative to their vote, and they largely favored Trump. Among the 36% who said immigration was their top issue, Trump won 80% of that, while Haley won just 20%. And among the 33% of voters who said the economy was the top issue, Trump won 62% of those. Haley bested Trump among voters who said foreign policy and abortion were the top issues, but those voters made up just 1/5 of the primary electorate. So the immigration once again becoming a top issue for voters, as it was in Iowa and New Hampshire, where immigration is now outpacing the economy as the top issue, and rightfully so. You have tons of illegal aliens coming across the border, infiltrating these states, just wreaking havoc in some cases. You saw as the young woman got murdered in Georgia by an illegal alien. This is becoming a huge problem, and I'm so glad that this is now the top issue in many cases, because before it became really exposed with Texas busing illegals all over the place and it becoming a big media topic. It wasn't that big of an issue before. It seems like inflation was consistently at the top. But I'm glad that immigration has overtaken that. Now, Haley has spent tons of money to lose. Haley wastes $76.4 million in South Carolina, New Hampshire, and Iowa to lose to Donald Trump. Gosh. In South Carolina, she spent $8.4 million. New Hampshire, she spent $31 million. In Iowa, she spent $37 million, where I believe she came in third place. So how is it that she's spending all this money and she keeps losing? She's spending all this money to lose to Trump. It's a waste of money, it's a waste of time, and a waste of resources. And she's also lost a major mega donor, conservative mega donor, the Koch brothers, said they are pulling out of donating to Nikki Haley. They're not giving her any more money because they see the writing on the wall. They see what's going to happen, how she has not won a single state, and you have Super Tuesday coming up where she is going to get absolutely clobbered. Super Tuesday is March 5th, by the way, so make sure you haven't gone out there and voted, go ahead and make your voices heard if you're in one of those Super Tuesday states. But this is very good for Trump. This is very good for Donald Trump. I mean, you can't spin this as a loss. And the polling was pretty close. I believe it was about 23% or so in favor of Trump in South Carolina, and he won by 20. But somehow this is bad for him. Look, you won by 20 points. That's a huge victory in my book. You can't spin that as a loss. Even if he won 80% of the vote, they're still going to say, well, you had 20% of the people coming out voting against him. It doesn't matter what percentage he wins. He wins 99%, they're going to say, 1% still rejected you. This is how they work. But I'm going to leave it right there. I just want to share those numbers with you, give you an update on the primary and this election season. We have Super Tuesday coming up. I will talk about that next week as the results come out. Should be very interesting, but I expect Trump to dominate just about every state. But all right, guys, thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. See you next time. Thank you. Take care.